Your brain is constantly distracted. Notifications, deadlines, and an endless stream of digital noise are pulling your mind in 100 different directions. You have ambitions, projects you want to build, and skills you want to master. Yet every single time you sit down to perform deep, meaningful work, an invisible wall rises up in front of you. You find yourself instinctively reaching for your phone, opening random tabs, or suddenly feeling a heavy, suffocating wave of mental resistance. You try to force your way through it. You watch motivational speeches, force yourself into 4 a.m. wake-up schedules, cold shower your way to productivity, and demand that your brain obey through sheer willpower. But within 3 days, the friction burns you out, leaving you right back where you started, frustrated, exhausted, and quietly suspecting that you simply lack the discipline required to succeed. You aren't lazy. You aren't lacking character. You are simply trying to win a psychological war using a framework that was built to make you fail. When people look for answers to this modern affliction, they often stumble upon ancient Eastern practices, specifically a framework commonly referred to as the Lotus Method. But if you look at how this concept is presented in modern self-improvement culture, it has been completely stripped of its raw power. It is sold as a comfortable, peaceful fantasy. Sit in a room, close your eyes, quiet your monkey mind, and wait for your potential to naturally bloom like a flower on a sunny day. That is not how the ancient masters operated, and it is certainly not how true mental mastery is forged. To understand how the Lotus Method actually works when applied to extreme pressure and intense internal resistance, we have to look away from passive meditation halls and look toward a man who lived his entire life on the knife edge between focus and death, Miyamoto Musashi. Musashi was not a philosopher sitting comfortably on a mountain writing poetry about peace. He was an undefeated samurai who fought in over 60 life-or-death duels. He lived in the mud, fought in the freezing rain, and faced men who were trying to slice him in half. Yet, when Musashi wrote his masterworks, the Book of Five Rings and his 21 Principles of Dokodo, he wasn't teaching people how to swing a sword faster. He was teaching them how to run their mental hardware when everything inside them was screaming in terror. If you read Musashi's writings through the lens of modern productivity, half of what he wrote sounds counterintuitive, almost psychotic. He tells you to have no preferences, to detach from comfort, and to accept life exactly as it presents itself. Most people read this and assume Musashi was telling them to turn into an unfeeling, emotionless stone wall. They miss the entire point. Musashi was not trying to turn himself into a stone. He was trying to turn his mind into a machine with zero friction. When Musashi stood across from an opponent with a drawn blade, his brain experienced the exact same biological signals that you experience when you face a difficult task, an intense, overwhelming urge to retreat to safety. Your resistance shows up as scrolling social media. His resistance showed up as the primal fear of dying, but the underlying mechanics are identical. The human mind is hardwired to avoid friction, conserve energy, and seek immediate comfort. Where most people make their fatal mistake, whether in a 17th century duel or at a modern desk, is that they treat this internal resistance as an enemy that must be fought with brute force. They feel the urge to procrastinate, and they get angry at themselves. They feel anxiety, and they try to suppress it. They try to bulldoze through their mental block using pure adrenaline and willpower. But willpower is a limited battery. The more you fight your own resistance, the more friction you create inside your own mind. You are running an engine with the emergency brake pulled all the way up, and then wondering why the motor is smoking. Musashi understood what the Lotus Method actually teaches. The mud is not something you fight. The mud is the environment you must operate within. A lotus flower does not grow in clean, filtered water. Its roots are buried deep beneath the surface in dark, heavy, suffocating mud. If the seed fought the mud, if it demanded that the pond become clear and warm before it began to grow, it would rot beneath the surface. It grows through the resistance, using the very weight and density of the muck as the leverage required to push upward toward the light. When Musashi stepped onto the battlefield, he did not wait for his fear to disappear. He did not wait for the right mood or ideal conditions. He recognized that the internal noise, the surging heart rate, and the instinct to flee were simply the natural conditions of the moment, the mud of the mind. Instead of trying to force his mind to be calm, he allowed the internal storm to exist without giving it control over his limbs. This is the fundamental shift that modern self-improvement misses completely. You do not need to feel calm to act with absolute focus. When you sit down to work on a hard project and you feel that heavy, uncomfortable sink in your stomach, stop trying to fix it. Stop waiting for motivation to arrive. Stop searching for a quick dopamine hit to make the task feel fun. That discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is the physical sensation of your mental hardware being stretched. The moment you stop resisting the resistance, half the friction vanishes. You stop wasting vital cognitive energy arguing with your own internal state. You acknowledge the heavy mud of the moment, keep your hands on the task, and allow the mind to do what it was designed to do. Once you stop fighting your internal resistance, you face the second and most deceptive challenge on the path to mental mastery, the illusion of noise. In modern self-improvement, people are obsessed with methods to quiet the mind. They download apps, listen to brainwave audio, set elaborate timers, and try to meditate their way into a state of Zen. They view stillness as a luxury, a peaceful escape from the harsh demands of reality. When Miyamoto Musashi sat down to write the Book of Void, the final and most profound chapter of the Book of Five Rings, he wasn't offering a peaceful retreat. He was describing a lethal state of cognitive efficiency known in Japanese martial philosophy as mushin, or the mind of no mind. To understand what the void actually is, you have to understand why your mind becomes so hopelessly scattered in the first place. Imagine a body of water. When the surface is completely still, it acts like a pristine mirror. It reflects the sky, the trees, and the moon with absolute, crystalline accuracy. You can see straight down to the bottom. But the moment you throw a handful of gravel into that water, the surface shatters into 1,000 chaotic ripples. The reflection distorts. The clarity vanishes. Most people spend their entire lives throwing rocks into their own minds. Every time you break your focus to check a notification, every time you jump between tabs when a task gets slightly difficult, every time you scroll through short-form videos to fill 3 seconds of boredom, you are hurling heavy stones into your mental lake. Then, you sit down at your desk, stare at a blank page, and wonder why your thoughts are murky, sluggish, and incapable of deep creative output. The mistake most people make is trying to smooth out the water with their hands. They yell at themselves to focus. They try to force the ripples to stop. But as any physicist will tell you, touching agitated water only creates more ripples. You cannot force a chaotic mind to become quiet through force. You only make it quieter by ceasing to agitate it. This is what Musashi meant when he wrote about the void. The void is not empty space in a mystical or magical sense. The void is what remains when you strip away every single layer of unnecessary mental processing. Think about what happens when you drive a car down a familiar road. You don't consciously calculate the angle of the steering wheel. You don't think about how hard your foot is pressing the gas pedal. Your eyes read the road, and your hands respond instantly without a single word of internal dialogue. Your conscious, analytical brain steps aside and lets your trained instincts handle the execution. That is the void in action. It is a state where the gap between perception and action becomes zero. When Musashi stepped onto the field against a rival swordsman, he couldn't afford the luxury of overthinking. If he spent half a second thinking, should I strike left or right? What if he parries? What if I fail? He was already dead. The overthinking brain is a slow brain. When your internal dialogue is loud, it is eating up vast amounts of computational power that should be going directly into execution. This is precisely why deep work feels so excruciatingly difficult for the modern mind. You aren't just trying to write a report, code a program, or structure a script. You are running 2 heavy internal jobs simultaneously. One part of your brain is trying to do the actual work, while the second part is constantly judging your progress, worrying about the deadline, checking for external validation, and searching for an escape route. You are splitting your mental engine in half and trying to race uphill. The Lotus Method, combined with Musashi's philosophy of the void, teaches a radical approach to this problem. You must learn to execute without self-observation. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. This was one of Musashi's most famous rules in the Dakodo. Most people read that rule and think it's about humility or low self-esteem. It is the exact opposite. Thinking lightly of yourself means removing your ego from the task. When you drop your ego, the fear of failure vanishes. Why? Because fear requires an image to protect. When you are worried about looking foolish, making a mistake, or wasting time, your brain is hyper-fixated on you. But when you dissolve that self-absorption, when you care only about the stone directly in front of you, there is no image left to defend. There is only the work and your absolute capacity to execute it. Look at how a Shaolin monk practices a single strike or how a master artisan carves wood. They do not hurry. They do not look around to see if anyone is watching. They do not check their watches every 2 minutes to see if they are done yet. They bring their entire existence down to a singular point of focus. The monk understands that true speed does not come from rushing. Speed is the byproduct of absolute clarity. When there is no waste in your movement, when there are no background apps running in your mental operating system, you accomplish in 2 hours what a scattered mind cannot achieve in 2 weeks. Stillness is not something you go looking for in a quiet forest. It is something you maintain in the middle of the noise. When you sit down at your desk today, your brain will scream for motion. It will try to convince you that you need to check your email, organize your workspace, or look up one more piece of information before you begin. That is the mud stirring up. Recognize it for what it is, a mechanical reflex designed to pull you back into comfort. Do not fight the urge. Do not debate with it. Let the thought pass across your mental mirror like a cloud over a mountain. Keep your eyes on the work and allow the noise to starve from a lack of your attention. You now understand how to handle the initial shock of internal resistance and how to quiet the mental noise using Musashi's concept of the void. But now you arrive at the long, grueling stretch of the journey, the phase where almost every modern creator, entrepreneur, and thinker breaks down, the war against time. We live in a culture that has systematically ruined our relationship with patience. We operate in an ecosystem built on instant feedback loops. You post a piece of content, and you refresh the screen to see the metrics within seconds. You send a message, and you watch for the active typing indicator. You start a workout routine, and if your body doesn't transform in 14 days, you assume the system is broken. This relentless demand for immediate proof has created a generation of deeply fragile minds. The moment a project becomes slow, unglamorous, or frustrating, internal alarm bells begin ringing. Your brain starts whispering that you're falling behind, that you're wasting your life, or that someone else has discovered a shortcut that you were too foolish to find. So, you panic. You abandon your strategy. You switch your direction, rewrite your goals, and search for a new productivity system, a new magic bullet that promises friction-free success. And in doing so, you uproot every single seed you planted before it ever had the chance to break through the soil. Look back at the core metaphor of the Lotus Method. A lotus seed does not bloom on demand to satisfy an arbitrary calendar. For months, it resides at the bottom of a pond, buried in deep, cold, suffocating filth. To an outside observer looking down at the water, absolutely nothing is happening. There are no visible signs of life, no metrics to track, no applause, and no external validation. If that seed possessed a fragile human ego, it would have panicked after 48 hours. It would have declared the dark environment a failure and ceased its effort. Yet beneath the murky surface, away from the sight of the world, something monumental is taking place. The seed is extending an intricate, unbreakable root system deep into the earth. It is anchoring itself against the underwater currents. It is actively absorbing the very nutrients buried inside the mud, the dark, heavy substance that everything else avoids, and converting it into raw structural power. Only when its foundation is absolute does it begin its slow, relentless push upward through the heavy water, eventually breaking into the open air to bloom completely untouched by the filth below it. Its beauty is not an accident, nor is it achieved despite the mud. It blooms because of the mud. The thickness of the water is what forced it to build strength. The darkness is what protected its growth until it was ready. Most people in the modern world want the bloom without the mud. They want the mastery, the focus, the authority, and the financial freedom. But the very second the process becomes quiet, messy, or slow, they want to flee. They view the uncomfortable, silent middle of a project as evidence that they are failing, when in reality, that exact discomfort is the proof that they are evolving. This was the ultimate secret behind Musashi's life. When Musashi withdrew to the Regondo cave at the end of his life, dying of cancer, with no audience, no algorithm, and no external reward waiting for him, he wrote down his philosophy on a roll of scroll paper. He wasn't trying to sell a product or build a personal brand. He was simply recording the absolute truth of how a human mind operates when stripped of all illusions. Musashi spent decades mastering a single art form. He didn't fight 60 duels by constantly searching for shortcuts or changing his sword style every 3 weeks. He committed to the daily, unglamorous, repetitive execution of fundamental movements, thousands upon thousands of times, until the weapon ceased to be an object in his hand and became an extension of his nervous system. He understood a truth that modern culture tries desperately to hide from you. Mastery is not a secret technique. Mastery is the willingness to sit with the boring, silent work long after the novelty has burned away. If you want to build something that lasts, whether it is an elite skill, a massive creative project, or an unbreakable mental framework, you must declare war on your own impatience. You must abandon the myth of the timeline. Stop checking your watch while you are building your foundation. Stop demanding that the universe prove to you every single afternoon that your effort is paying off. When you stop working for immediate external validation and start working for the sheer craftsmanship of the task, the frantic, desperate energy in your brain completely vanishes. You no longer view your daily work as a heavy chore that you must get through to reach a reward. You view every difficult moment, every wave of distraction, and every piece of friction as a heavy rep in a mental gym. A direct opportunity to upgrade your internal operating system. When you sit down at your desk today, do not look at the top of the mountain. Do not paralyze yourself thinking about the 3-year plan, the ultimate outcome, or how far you still have to go. Ask yourself one simple, relentless question. What is the single stone in front of me right now? Is it writing the next paragraph? Is it editing the next frame? Is it analyzing a single piece of data? Whatever it is, pull your entire universe down into that solitary action. Strip away the background noise, ignore the ticking clock, drop the desperate need for quick results, and execute that single movement with the quiet, absolute precision of a master. Give yourself permission to exist in the mud for as long as the process requires. Let your roots grow deep into the dark soil while nobody is paying attention. Because when the algorithms go quiet, when the trends die out, and when the superficial hacks inevitably fail, there are no shortcuts left standing. There is only the work, the mind executing the work, and the person you became in the silent hours when nobody was watching. Stop trying to hack your life. Start training your mind. The bloom will take care of itself.